Hey everybody, it's Michael. Thought I would do a check-in type of episode. I know that my show, if you've been listening to it a long time, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But there was a lot of short interviews or short episodes where it was just myself talking, and then I started interviewing some amazing people, and that's pretty much what the tone of the show has been and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. But from time to time, it's important for me to just dive in and talk about some things and observations. I talk about burnout. We know about that. We're in this pandemic, 19 months, if I do the math right, at the time of this. And it's been challenging to say the least. Yeah, if you look at the headlines, although if you ever attend any of my talks, yeah, I tend to tell people to avoid the news. Don't live in a cave, but limit your news exposure because that negativity eats at you, it stresses you out. What happens with prolonged stress? You burn out. Then you get to talk to me because you need help. But as much as I'd love to talk to you about it, I'd much rather you not burn out because if you're familiar with my backstory, you know what that's all about. And of course, if you're not, pick up 369 Days, How to Survive Your Worst Case Scenarios, or my new book, Burnout Proof, available on Amazon. You can order online at other bookstores as well if you for some reason don't like ordering from the A to Z company. But anyway, observations. I just took a 2 month sabbatical. I was off for a couple months, and wow, I highly recommend that. It's fun. Now, was I completely disconnected? No. Sometimes in this everly connected world, it's difficult to stay completely disconnected. Wi-Fi is available everywhere. It's hard to hide. But at the end of the day, I did take a pretty significant break from my routines because this pandemic has been really, really, really interesting as far as the work that I do and the things that I do on burnout prevention. Lots of conversations, lots of conferences, albeit virtual. I have not traveled much since this pandemic, but looks like that will probably change a bit in the near future. As long as we can keep these cases down and getting lower and lower, I think that will help a lot. I'm not going to get any political conversations or discords or vaccines and non-vaccinated. I'm not going to go there. Um, Everyone has their choices. With choices come responsibilities, actions have issues, and you name it. But I'm not going to get involved in those things. All I can say is take the best care possible of yourself and your loved ones and those who are around you, how you see fit, and hope everything works out for the best for all of us. One of the things I've noticed, and there's been a lot of dialogue about the great resignation and the great reset, and companies having difficulty finding staff. I think there's a lot of elements to it. It's not just one singular thing, much like the airlines. Recently, there's been a lot of flight cancellations, and there's been some varying stories as to the reason or reasons why. Well, there's reasons for it, not just a singular thing. As society, we want to pinpoint. We want one answer. We want this was the one cause. But as I've discovered in life, usually there's multiple things that cause situations, not just a single thing. But what I am seeing is there's a theme that's going on right now. I think that this pandemic has brought to light some organizations that, quite frankly, haven't been treating their employees well. I'm not saying across the board, but there are some. I'm not going to name any. If you work for one, you know who they are. But there's been some organizations over the past few years, or maybe several years, that have not been treating their employees well. They haven't been paying them properly. Their benefits suck. They don't have any flexibility. Well, the pandemic opened up the eyes of people, realizing this is not a healthy environment for me. That's why you're seeing a lot of people leave their jobs because they're tired of that. They're literally burned out of working for an environment that is not healthy for them. Now, there's a flip side to this. Expectations. We as humans often associate ourselves with the work that we do. I am an accountant. I am a writer. I am a graphic designer. I am a human. I do those things, not all of them. Graphic design is definitely not something you'd want me to do. As I like to say, I couldn't draw a stick figure if you spotted me the sticks. I'm just not good at it. I know that for a fact. So I don't anticipate being featured in any art museum anytime soon. But hey, the world is a crazy place. At the end of the day, people are tired and they want a little bit more freedom and flexibility. And this pandemic has created that to a certain extent. Working remotely or working from home has given people some flexibility on doing some things during the day that they couldn't do before. And now, in many organizations, are saying, no, we want you back in the office all the time. People are looking at it going, we worked for a year and a half not doing that. We don't want that format. And there are some people, and I know people, there's two people that I know that I worked with at an organization several years ago. Great human beings, polar opposites when it comes to working in an office or working remotely. One was working remotely before it was cool, and the other individual, and I'm not going to name names, but he, a bit of an introvert, but seeks to be around people. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, but it makes sense because I think a lot of people commonly think introverts as people that don't want to be anywhere near anybody. But we all need human interaction. And even though he tends to have introvert tendencies, he's happier, working in an office with people around. Even though the work that he does is very siloed in nature and he needs to focus on it and not be interrupted, he still wants people around. Where the other person, if he could work 200% of the time remotely, he would. That's how much he loves remote work. And he thrives at what he does. So my hope for organizations is that they will actually take a look at how they design their work and have it in a way where it is beneficial to everybody. Now, everyone needs to come to the table. Everyone needs to communicate. Everyone needs to figure out, okay, what makes sense for everybody? What makes sense for me as an employee is one thing, but I also need to have an understanding that the employer needs things too. We can't have this be uneven. Each of us have to kind of give and take a little bit. So maybe a hybrid situation where you're going in one day a week or once a month for team meetings or whatever the case may be. Figure it out. I think a struggle that a lot of people are dealing with is we don't have the answers. And again, in this instant gratification society that we have designed, we expect things to be set and ready to go right now. Well, none of us, or at least the majority of us, have not lived through a pandemic before. New rules, the game play and the playbook has been changed and is changing while we're playing the game. And that's very frustrating to people, especially for those of us that have OCD, or as the poster behind me says, CDO. If you can't read it, it says I have CDO. It's OCD, but the letters are in alphabetical order as they should be. So if you want that, you can find that image online. That's where I found it. It gets lots of jokes. But anyway, I just want to chime in. I'm not going to have any bump music on this. I'm just going to upload this and have it go live. So, because it's important, I think, for people to recognize that we are still in these weird, we're redesigning thing times. It's different. You're driving down the road and you're changing the dynamics of your vehicle while you're moving. Not necessarily recommended, not the most ideal, but that's where we are. So to help you through all of this, just a reminder, take care of yourself. Do things in life you enjoy doing. Schedule those breaks. If you can take time off, take it. Do something. It's easier to travel now than it was even a couple of months ago. So if you have to go somewhere, then go. If you can't go anywhere, well, then have a staycation. Figure out something. Go to a town nearby that you've never been to before. Wander the streets. Go shopping in a different mall than you normally shop. Eat at a different restaurant that you normally don't eat at. I don't know, rent a car so you're driving something different. There's all kinds of things to mix things up. Be creative. That's what makes life fun. just doing things in life you enjoy doing and being creative and not being so focused on all the things we can't do, but focus on what we can. So until next time, be well.